let's start this session. Today's session, it is a continuation with the last session which we had regarding the Sigma Franchise Summit. And we have, come across with lot of solutions and lot of, questions has been raised by the participants as well. So today also what the flow of this summit would be, we'll be introducing all the panelists and then we'll be having few questions. And then after the questions, we'll be looking forward for, getting privileged answers from our panelists. And then if any participant want to ask any question, he can raise his hands. We'll be having in between the poll also. So we'll try to make this session very interactive, and we'll going to choose a few important points where it has used for the practical purposes also for all the participants, which are our upcoming entrepreneurs as well as who are from the SME industry. So let's start this sessions. So good morning to everybody, all the panelists. I would like to first introduce Mr. Gaurav Kapoor. He's CA by profession and his current assignment with NSDC. He's with NSDC leading head industry partnerships, CSR engagements, media advocacy, and many other important roles, including the business development and also operation and financing. So now, the next I'll introduce Mr. S.K. Gautam. He is a dedicated professional in the agri-business industry of India, serving the agri-business from last about 29 years with various roles and responsibilities. He has worked for leading organizations such as Morgappa Group, Mahindra and Mahindra, and then Bexy Group, AK Birla Group, and currently he is CEO in Udyam. So we are trying to understand many things about agriculture industries. So welcome, sir. And the next our panelist is Mr. Vivek Raman. He is co-founder of Regrob. He's very dynamic and young entrepreneur. He is an IT enthusiastic and he's currently having around 50 plus franchise across the country, which is a big number. And he is successfully running that also. And he has a very unique model called O2O model, which is a unique model in this franchise industry, which is called offline to online model. And they are surviving in this pandemic also. So in real estate, I feel this is a wonderful model they are running. And I welcome Ashish Kaushik. He is also a very passionate entrepreneur and he is a IIM alumni. And he's also co-founder and also mentoring few startups. And he's expert today for franchise. So we are welcoming Ashish Kaushik. So today we are expecting some advice from Ashish Kaushik for new entrepreneurs so that people can understand actually the need of our. And the next, I'll welcome Mr. Dr. Sumit Suslina. Is a seven-time national and international award winner, veteran, and he is from aviation industry, which is a very tightening industry now after this post-pandemic. But he is looking forward for having a wonderful time in coming years. So he has written some books also. He's the author, and which is widely used in many of the aviation management schools, and he is also working in new projects with BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, on drone technology. So today we are looking forward for getting some input in the aviation industry. And the next panelist we have Mr. Vikas Chauhan. He is CA by profession, and currently he is on the mission of developing and helping MSMEs, and he is taking their voice to appropriate authorities. So he's running that VMR Foundation. He's a non-profit organization where the different volunteers are trying to help startups and SMEs in setting up their business and also taking care of that compliance, because nowadays compliance is very important thing where startups sometime caught in the middle. They start in a good passion, but because of the thick line which is there to start a business, so he's helping those. So welcome Mr. Vikas Chauhan for today. So let's start, and also I'll introduce myself. I am Jitendra Narayan, and we are having a group company called Sigma Summit, and we are conducting national and international summits, as well as we have taken this initiative for conducting webinars for different variety of challenges and the fear people are having. So we are trying to solve few of their problems and would like to develop the entrepreneurships. So today, let's start with our session. We'll open first questions from Sir Gaurav Kapoor. So, sir, I would like to question you that how do you see India long-term growth potential after this COVID problem, and also beyond this imperative plays in the world economy. So, how do you feel that India growth story is going to continue after this post-pandemic? Gaurav sir, are you there? I'll rephrase these questions to Gaurav sir again.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, what the first question of this session is: how do you see this India long-term story, or the potential that I'll talk about after this COVID problem and beyond the imperative placed? And also, if I would like to compare it with the world economy, so how do you see this economy after this post-pandemic? So this is the opening question for today. So I would like to ask from Gaurav sir, what do you see that?
See, I think this we have seen in the near past, and we will see it again. See, India's growth story, if you look at it, is primarily fueled by our internal demand, and that demand comes because of the population. So it might reduce or it might shift from sector to sector in a temporary phase, but in the long run, this is going to come back. Everything is going to bounce back. And I see in the post COVID scenario, there'll be a rapid and robust growth which India will see. The priorities might change a bit, the sectors might change a bit, but the growth is going to be there. And this is only a temporary phase where we are seeing a regrouping from sector to sector and a growth, like we are saying, now it's going to dip down to 3.2%. But post-COVID, you will see this again going back to the same figure of 6-7%, and it won't take too much time.
It is the same scenario you see. I mean, as per the economy which is there, in the Europe and US, because day before yesterday, I have seen that there is an index called Dow Jones, and which is reacting in a very bad manner now. Initially, Americans were saying like we are going to stand off with our financial strength, but now there is a mild change in the growth. So is that the right thing which is going on, or government is just pumping money and people are looking forward after this money everything is going to be okay?
See, international scenario may be a bit different because their demands are not that large. Indian itself, the India, because of the population, the demand is large. We have already started seeing changes. I've been talking to a few exporters. One, the entire order book which they had, people have at the most asked for 2%, 3% discount, and they're still taking all the material which was ordered before the lockdown and before the COVID situation. In fact, last month in May, exporters have also started seeing orders and good orders coming from Europe and America, which means that they are also looking at a good demand post the COVID. So I think it is only a matter of a couple of months till the time this thing stabilizes in India and across the world. I think we will see a immediate rebound and a huge demand which comes in. And right now, India is actually poised in a very interesting position because still our cost of labor is cheaper than a lot of other countries across at least the developed nations, across Europe, across America. So a lot of things will come back here. And with this disrepute which China has created for itself with this COVID situation, I think many bases would want to shift towards India, Vietnam. So this is going to happen very soon.
Okay, so you're very positive about our Indian economy.
Absolutely.
I would like to, ask the same question to Vikas Chauhan, since he is CA and he's, every time he's, talking of numbers whenever any, industrialist or businessman comes, so he talks about numbers. So Vikasji, what you feel? The same growth story which is going to continue and the potential which we have in India?
Yeah, as Jitanji, as you said, the numbers, the only number of consumers we have in India, nobody can compete in the world. So this is the one thing. On the other hand, as Gaurav sir said, that we are expecting somebody will be moving into India from China. But unfortunately, the government process of the machinery is working. It's not that much speedy way we are working. Like on the other hand, I have come to know, in talking with few clients, and they are already working for in other countries, Singapore or other countries. They were planning to shift in India, their manufacturing plant. Instead of shifting to India, they went to some other countries. Like recently, they are in Kenya, or one country is developing very fast. They are in one country. I'm forgetting the name. Within a 6 day, you get all the approvals and company set up with the land acquisition, all thing. So our government has to think on the if they actually want to bring manufacturing in India. So manufacturing is the only thing which will create a job, which will create an economy.
Okay, so you mean to say that government has to take initiative to make the
More
system.
initiative, like they are taking. I'm not saying they are not taking. See, in a now today's scenario, company can be incorporated in a 2 or 3 days.
Okay.
They have fastened the process, but due to some lockdown, the things are little slow. But government has to come forward and take the initiative very fast. Otherwise, we will lose this opportunity.
Okay, so as I can summarize this thing, I mean, you mean to say that the ease of doing business has to be the more focus from the government side,
Right.
bring these companies in India. Okay. It's a very important point. So have you been able to, give that message to our Prime Minister, or probably because now everything is online, so you can talk
So
to.
we at our level, we trying our best. So wherever we can, we are doing that.
Yes, wonderful said. So Ashish ji, I mean, I would like to, ask you the same thing. What is your opinion in that India growth story?
Yeah, only day before yesterday, I was seeing a news channel, and the same question was asked to Mr. Jhunjhunwala, who is considered one of the biggest bulls in India.
Yeah.
So he said that mother of all bull runs is gonna come. So I thought that why this guy who is so intelligent, who has made so much money in the stock market, can say something like that, that the biggest bull run is coming. Then I thought on a deeper level that this guy believes in the long-term growth story of India. So he is always there in the bull run. He's not seeing any bear run, any and
Yeah,
no
he's a bullish man.
no correction whatsoever, because the long-term growth story of India is extremely good. If we talk about some numbers, recently we saw a report by United Nations that by 2048, India will be the biggest consumer market all over the world, because
Okay.
our middle class is growing very fast. Currently, it is at around 19% of our total population, and by 2048, it is slated to go to 70% of all population. So that is the biggest number. Even in current situation, when we talk about 2020, 2021 only, India is still the biggest democracy of the world, second largest biggest market, one of the biggest consumers of many things, biggest middle class, and their purchasing power is growing at every day. So the long-term growth story of India is extremely rosy, I would say. We should be bullish, and as a country, we should try and aspire to become an entrepreneurial hub, so that we can tap this growth inside our own country itself, and the results of this growth can reach to our own people.
Okay. So, I mean, you talked about more on the market side. But the people, who are at the bearish side, they're talking of, this stock market will go down maybe around 30% from here. So, it may be a biased decision of the biased view, if I talk about Jhunjhunwala.
Yeah, see, there is always a short-term correction, and when we talk about markets always discount early. So we discounted market from 42,000 to 25,000. But the
Okay.
long-term growth story is extremely good. India is having the largest population. Lot many companies are coming. What just we need, I think we need to work on lot of skill development, so that our own people can go to big companies, work there. Even on a smaller level, we need to open more ITIs, we need to open more polytechnics,
Okay.
and we need to make our youngsters who can take the plunge to make them entrepreneurs somehow.
Okay. Rightly said, because we need to have the new entrepreneurship thing and more innovative ideas. So, how, Vivek, your point of view on that, the India growth story and the potential we have?
First of all, thank you, Jiten, for inviting me to this session. and always good feel to be a part of your national and international event. And so what I always feel, being an entrepreneur, growth story is always lifetime opportunity, what I called it. So, coming to your question, I think there will be more demand in comparison to what we had before COVID. Post COVID, there will be more demand in terms of, only things will change in terms of buying behavior. So people will start, if they want to purchase anything, they will change their behavior. There will be a less human touch, and more thing will move online. And if it let's take an latest example of Jewar Airport. Why I'm giving this example, because this will show a demand. So now the companies are moving from China to India. If we take a latest example of Jewar Airport, the MROs are coming to Meerut and near Jewar, which is in NCR. So this shows there will be a huge demand in future. And second example, which I'll give you, of the electronic city, which is coming near Jewar. So obviously, this example shows us that the future is very good for Indians, and there will be huge demand.
Okay, okay. So as I can understand, because you belongs to real estate, so you talk about more on infrastructure. So I'll ask again these questions to Dr. Sumit Suslin is with us, and he's from aviation industry. So what is your view on that, Dr. Sumit? Are you there? Dr. Sumit, would you be able to? I think there is some problem with the connectivity. Dr. Sumit is there, but he is not able to, respond. So, in summary, that what I can understand is that India has a growth potential, and with the few initiatives by the government, as Vikas he has told, like initiatives, and also Gaurav sir has said about the growth story as comparatively to the world economy also. So we are very bullish on our India this thing. So once it will be finished, I think we'll be able to cope up very fast, and maybe 4 months or 3 months we can consider, Gaurav sir, or maybe you expect 6 or 12 months to go.
See, what I feel is this infection, the COVID period, is probably going to peak sometime in the middle of July in India. And from middle of July to middle of September, it is going to be at a kind of a plateau, slightly decreasing. Post September, things will start coming under control, which means by December, January, we should start seeing these trends of growth reversal. Though in the short run also, starting maybe September, we'll see some indication, but I think December, January is the right thing to bet on. We will have, huge demand and growth.
Okay, okay. So I think Dr. Sumit is with us. Hello.
Unmute,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah, I think your voice is not coming. Can you please unmute your this thing?
Good morning.
Yeah, Sumit, I mean, you are a flying man. So I'll ask you a same question about the growth industry, because now anybody can see this aviation industry. Flights are not working. People are trying to cut the salaries, because in this starting of that lockdown only we heard that a lot of companies are trying to squeeze the hands of employees, and they were talking of some packages from the government. So how do you feel this aviation industry is untouched, or it's very much affected, or maybe it is a short term thing?
Yeah, we are affected badly. Yes, we accept that thing. But I think we are going to come in a very fast pace. As we can see that India is a startup point. Like most of the people are planning to start up a new ventures in India. So because of post-COVID, the international market is in downside. But Indian businessman is taking it as an opportunity. The post-COVID, now the entire international market is down. The aircraft price are very down now. So we are expecting that more businessmen will take opportunity and will lease out more aircraft and try to start up new companies in India. We recently had got permission for few airlines in India. One is Flybig, which is a FSTC company. One is YuvaJet, which is going to start the operation from Ranchi. One is Fly Air Taxi. That's a taxi service for four-seater aircraft, which they are going to start from this year. So it's an excellent opportunity. They are feeling that they will get a very cheap manpower, because we were facing a crunch of manpower from all over world. We used to recruit manpower. So now, as an international market, we have a lot of pilots available. So we are seeing as an opportunity, and people is expecting like nowadays to fly by aircraft. They don't want to spend more time by traveling by train, because it's quite risky to travel by train because they have to spend more time over there. But when it comes to flight, you have to spend a very less time. So now the opportunities are good. Post COVID, airlines had taken up, had opened new doors. Like now they have charter flight service. Earlier, Indigo, SpiceJet, they never used to offer this charter service. Now they had opened this window of charter service, and they are making huge revenue from this. Recently, we had seen now for laborers, people have started giving charters to laborers also. The Hyderabad Law University had taken a group of 178 laborers from Bangalore to Raipur by charter flight. So
Yeah.
opportunities are coming up. Definitely, we are expecting huge opportunity will be there in future, and we expect more airlines to come down. And government is supporting a lot for aviation sector. Definitely, we have issues of air turbine fuel. We are getting higher tax and all. But government had given a Udan scheme, which is like Udega Desh Ka Aam Nagrik, which is a dream project of Honorable Prime Minister of India. And I think post-COVID, these sectors will improve a lot.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Sumiji. I think you have opened up another way of thinking, because as a layman, what
Yeah.
you were thinking that the aviation is going to be hampered like anything, but as you said, these are the various opportunities which are there. So you are finding the opportunities between this dark thing which is happening after this post pandemic. Thank
Yes,
you.
we were trying for drone service to start in India for past 2 to 3 years. We never got permission, but because of this COVID situation, now the drone service had got a permission from Minister of Civil Aviation, and we already
Wonderful.
started doing testing. So now, future there will be huge opportunity, huge manpower requirement will be there in aviation sector.
Wonderful, wonderful. So now, during this, Gautam sir has also come in between us. So I would like the same question to Gautam sir for, I mean, in the agriculture industry, what is the India growth story as you see? Gautam sir? Gautam sir, are you there? I think Gautam sir, you have to unmute your voice. Okay, so I mean, let's summarize this first question since there is some problem in the voice. Uh, so what I can see the India growth story, as everybody has talked about, in detailing of their own industries as well as the whole India growth story. So now we'll take up the another questions of today, that what are the problem for India in these coming 5 to 10 years? Because any business you talk about, any industry. So if you wanted to start something into the business, or probably after this break, so everybody want to write their projections for next 5 to 10 years. So what do you feel that it is going to impact industry to industry? So let's start with the your own industries from your you belongs to. So what is the main problem of India in these upcoming these 5 to 10 years which are going to come? Maybe the problem, or maybe the the opportunity, as Dr. Sumit has talked about. So I'll start with Gaurav sir again, and what is your view on that?
See, Jitendra, I think it's a very interesting phase. I always used to say that automation will not come in a big way into India immediately. Only the large industry will go for automation, because the cost of labor was much cheaper in India than the cost of capital. But now there is a very interesting trend where MSME is also moving towards automation. It could be partially because there is a shortage of labor, people have migrated back, but also they are seeing the benefit now. And comparatively, everybody is expecting that the cost of labor is going to go up a bit. Now,
Okay.
this automation which is going to come in, which was likely to come in 8 to 10 years from now, is now going to start in this year itself, and probably in next 5 years you will see a lot of MSME going through this automation in a in a controlled manner. It's not like that the entire industry is going to get automated, but that's one thing which is going to happen. So this is going to give us an opportunity to actually compete with others in terms of standardization of quality also. The second part, in terms of challenge, which I see in next 5 to 10 years, is primarily the competition with the Southeast Asian nations. We'll have to be very careful on how we want to deal with that. Even if we say China is on a back foot right now, but China is going to bounce back very soon. But there is also Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, Indonesia, which is going to look at this pie, which is going to come. So if India has to win, India has to look at all these things and have a strategy ready. I also agree that we need to look at ease of doing business. The current ease of doing business also, like Vikas was mentioning, is a slightly disturbed right now. I think we need to improve it further. The ease of doing business, the legal framework, the accounting framework, everything needs to improve. So all that has to go hand in hand, and that's where we will see this growth. Yes, in 5 to 10 years, these are the challenges, or these are the opportunities which I'm seeing as of now.
Okay, so according to you, would you be, the inflation part which is coming now, you can see anything you wanted to know, you wanted to buy for your businesses now, the cost is getting very high. So does this will going to impact the industry, or it is going to be stabilize the rates? Because now the major problem which is going to come is the migrant thing, and people are not coming back. They are, still they are trying to, reach to their own places. So what is, does these are going to be the indicators for the challenges?
See, I think we'll have to see it in a very different light. In the current scenario where there is a shortage and there is difficulty in transportation, logistics is taking a bit of time to restart. In fact, we heard that so many trucks were stranded across the country. The prices for the raw materials might rise in the short run, which means that the prices of the finished products would rise. Once the prices of the finished products rise, the demand would fall a bit. When the demand falls a bit, then again everything will readjust itself. So there'll be an acceptance of a higher price and a higher raw material cost, but all this is going to adjust over a period of 1 or 2 months as it settles down. So this is an important scenario which we need to look at, that these things will happen. Inflation could be again short run, but in the long run, inflation will also get controlled because the demand and supply will settle down. And in fact, it's a very interesting scenario. When we see a deflation, the country doesn't go forward. It actually starts going backward. So a healthy inflation is also required, and anything around 3 to 5% is a healthy inflation rate in India at least. So I think we need to look at inflation also. Yes, a controlled version of it.
So what is your message to these SMEs? Because they will, react very fast whenever there is any problem. They, try to give that problem back to the government because this is the problem of government. Government is not doing anything. What is your message to these SMEs? Because SMEs is a major.
Yeah. So I always believe that the government can only look at the economic indicators and work on that. The economy itself adjusts because of the market conditions, the business demand, the business growth, the market demand. All these will actually readjust the businesses. Some businesses might see an increased cost. Some businesses might see a decreased cost also. So we'll have to just see how the economy balances itself. The government can only look at policy, and policy matters would obviously take some time to come into force and also see what changes they bring in. So in the short run, it's the economic play which will govern the scenario.
Correct. So this is the main point. I think as per your this thing, I would say that they should, for the temporary point of view, they should, they should ignore these problems because it will stabilize in the later. So Gautam sir, are you there with us? Gautam sir, are you there with us? I think there is some problem with your connectivity. I think again he is.
Yes, I'm there. There is some problem with the connectivity. So now it is okay.
Yeah. So thank you for coming back again. You have shifted your place. So now the same question that I'm going to ask you, since you are a agri man and you have developed a few companies in your different portfolios. So what is the major challenges or problems you see in India from in coming 5 to 10 years? Or rather, I say that what are the changes in going to come in the industries, particularly in the agriculture? I would like to know.
The scenario is going to change. It is sure, and different industry has to change as per their different perspectives. I can quote an example to you. Last month, Telangana government has just given an indication that whatever the crop will be grown in the state, it will as per the guidelines or as per the instruction from the government side. Means we have to change our cropping pattern and production and processing of whole agri-business segment. It has to be market driven. It cannot, it should not be like that. You are producing potatoes, so everyone is producing potato. Every state is doing something in the same way. Everyone is doing all the crops. So we have to understand the consumption pattern and the production pattern and analyze them accordingly. And then we have to make a change for the next. So in the next 5-10 years, we have to understand the market and do the agriculture production and processing as per need of the market only. Not like that every year, every season we are throwing some potato or onion, or sometimes price goes up, because each and every commodities prices are being governed by the international market as on date. So many change is required there, and yes, change is happening, started happening there. People are concerned and the policies are being made like that. So it is happening. So change is there.
Okay, Gautam sir, you have raised a very good point here. I would just need to understand. See, the crops are growing by the farmer, but there are a lot of people in between which connect this market. Linkages are there. So for them, what is the new changes they have to develop within their own ventures, or probably they have to adopt few things. So what do you feel that these SMEs, what they can, because there are a lot of SMEs which are, making farm implements for farmers. There are a lot of people who are making seeds and pesticides. Their company size can be smaller or the larger. So where you feel that this is going to be, needed as of now, and maybe for the coming years?
The implement IT and IT application is going to increase in the agri-business sector or production sector or supply chain, or you can say between the supply chain. So many opportunities are there for IT industry to implement their IT applications. Recently, I came into some software, some execution. So a whole combination of whole things is required from production to consumption. There is many applications in between with the logistics, IT applications, processing. So it is required. So many SMEs can start into this sector, or who are already there in the between the same segment from plow to platter. They can understand the gap, and according to that they can plan their strategy. Because in during the COVID period, there was a lot of issues has been raised by the farmers or by the whole agribusiness industry for the logistic disconnectivity or disruption in the whole supply chain. The produce has been produced at the farm level, but it cannot be. It was not delivered at the consumption level. So, many applications and opportunities are there for the not for agri person, even IT person, logistic person, management people, and these people can come into and grow their business with this whole supply chain.
So, as per you, there are variety of opportunities available at all the the middlemen are there, like maybe the supply chain, maybe the farm implementation, or probably the production parts. That means the brighter picture is there with us, because now, as Modi ji also talked about many times about agriculture has saved many states because of their continuously growing of crops and all. So thank you, Gautam sir. I would ask the same question to Vikas ji, because he is going to give us a right numbers. As what do you see in the agriculture sector, Vikas ji?
Specifically in agriculture, picture is rosy, because See, when we will be implementing the technology thing as suggested by this sir, that so we can plan the demand and supply and match that with the use of technology. So if somebody can take up the initiative to already many people are doing bit something like to improve the whole process. So if the agriculture thing would be done like a business, as a core business, there would be some good profit and in benefit to the farmers as well. As far as your previous question is concerned, like I was just analyzing that, what is the scenario in next 3 to 4 years henceforth.
Correct.
After 1 year, things would be positive, but in a present situation, like after loan moratorium and all, the banking system is going to affect very badly in coming times. First, and secondly, all the businesses and SMEs, I would suggest be little conservative on the part of conservative. I mean, revenue cannot estimate much, but on the other hand, expensive would be higher side. So your budgets, your cash flow planning has to be very specific, very controlled way. And third, I would say the discipline in the business. 3 things, like plan your business in a conservative manner. If you achieve the target and exceed your target, that is the first thing. That's great. It will motivate you as well. But keep it at the first end as very conservative. Secondly, manage your cash flows very well. Nowadays, everybody is facing the problem of collection from their customers or their debtors. So everybody is facing the same issue because they are not getting the payment from other side. So the whole chain is break now. Whole system is break. So be conservative at a present situation. Then plan your cash flows very well so that you know where the money will come and where you have to spend. So you don't get stuck into the cycle of cash crunch. Second, be a disciplined businessman. Discipline, I mean, we have to do compliances. So sometimes what we do, we get into the new business, new venture, just like as a we can psychologically or just as a motivation, but without any proper planning. So discipline moves would be appreciated. This is my submission.
Okay, thank you, Vikas ji. Ashish ji, what is your view on that? Since you are with the latest technology and you are too many startups as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest problem that India will face is how to become Atmanirbhar, how to become self-reliant in the times to come.
Correct.
Next 4 or 5 years are make or break years for India. And I think entrepreneurship is one thing, and that can grow us. Skilled people that can make many things is the key. And our honorable Prime Minister has also talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat. So I'm also an infrastructure professional. So I will talk about how infrastructure in India is a bit problematic and we have to solve it. So before the start of this event, I was talking that how at the height of Great Depression, there was a noted British economist, John Maynard Keynes, and he wrote an open letter to the then President of United States. That time I could not remember his name, but his name, the then President of United States was Franklin D. Roosevelt. And the economist encouraged him to enact what came to be known as the New Deal. It's a very famous letter as the New Deal, where investment in infrastructure became the silver bullet, and it pulled all the world out of Great Depression. So our Prime Minister also talked that infrastructure is one of the main pillars of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Make in India is very closely related to Atmanirbhar Bharat, and it also reminds me of Swadeshi movement that was started by Gandhiji. So to make this Make in India successful, we need to make our workforce skilled. We need to make them healthy. We need to use their time efficient, and we have to make them day-to-day worries like housing and water. So if we focus on housing, we need to make our cities very smart, so that these new smart cities can emerge as production mega centers. And these production mega centers will be the foundation of Atmanirbhar Bharat. If we see the population of India, India will be the most populous country in the next 10 years. And we will have the biggest market of the world with extremely low penetration right now for manufacturers and businesses. So market is going to explode like anything in India. So leaving aside the current reverse migration that is happening in this COVID times, we have been seeing a lot of migration from rural areas to urban areas. Many population is coming from rural areas to the mega cities where 70% of economic growth is happening. And with this momentum, more than 843 million people are expected to live in urban areas. So we need to have very high investment in smart cities. Even the Indian Economic Survey 2017-18 estimates that we require 4 trillion USD infrastructure investment by 2040, and most of it needs to be focused on urban India. As by 2030, even 40% of the current population will reside in cities. We need to build a lot of residential and commercial space every year. That is almost equivalent to Chicago, 700 to 900 million square meters of residential and commercial space every year. So, and we already have a very ambitious plan, Digital India, that has 100 smart cities inbuilt across India. So these can be the next mega centers of manufacturing. And India's smart city plan is also a part of larger agenda of creating industrial corridors bigger among the big metropolitan cities like Delhi Mumbai Industrial Corridor, Chennai Bangalore Industrial Corridor, Bangalore Mumbai Economic Corridor. So a lot of planning is there. We need to execute it. A lot of investment from government side is necessary. A lot of entrepreneurship in infrastructure is necessary, and we can become Atmanirbhar Bharat. I think next 4 or 5 years.
You rightly said about the smart cities and the mega infrastructures, but here I think on the larger picture, I think small entrepreneurs may not be able to build up all that policies, and these things cannot be come. But for the SMEs, what you feel? I mean, what is the message that you wanted to give for the next 5-10 years? Because the small startups come with small money, and they wanted to fit themselves between the problems and the solutions. So where you find these people can come and maybe in the infrastructure sector or maybe in other industry where they can.
Yeah, Chitan, you have asked a very important question, but I would say that no big city has grown without entrepreneurs. Whether you see any place, if you see the largest entrepreneurship in India is located in the mega cities of India. You see, Bangalore is the biggest startup hub, Delhi, Hyderabad, because these places have been built by government and all over the community has built it to become a mega city. So when these smart cities will be built, we will have many opportunities. Like we will see opportunities in IoT, we will see opportunities in food. Many people will work, so travel will be very important. Many manufacturers will come. So not everything will be held by big businessmen, but still lot of entrepreneurship will be there, and lot of small and medium ventures will be there, and they
So
will
you mean
flourish.
to say this SME has to focus on these because smart cities already been a prime project of government of India.
Yes.
So they should look into those categories where they can fit in. Okay.
And there will be many opportunities, I think.
Correct. So Ramanji, I mean, I would like to ask the same question to you because you come from infrastructure background and you are running these 50 franchises which are very successfully running. So how are you able to manage, and in the next 5-10 years, what do you see in this infrastructure background?
Yeah, I'll come to that question. But what is the problem and solution? So we as an entrepreneur, like Sumit said, we look it as an opportunity. So if coming to an opportunity, this will give rise to a lot of unicorns, and very new entrepreneurs will be born. So I think if we have missed an opportunity of 2008, so this is the time where new entrepreneurs should come. And there is a buzzword which we are talking right now is a brand tech. A brand should be a technology based system. now the company should reinvent their whole processes. They have to adopt technology. They have to be a digitized in order to survive in another 5 to 10 years. I'll give you the two very good example of my friend. It is more related to aviation again. One of my friend Ajay Kumar, who has built recently a drone in 2 months, and he started delivering a lot of materials through drone. And he's in talks with Amazon, Snapdeal, and Flipkart. So see, this is an opportunity which he has seen and built and started delivering, doing that. Then another example of IoT, the guy Ashish, he has built a mobile app through that. He can start a motor in his home, Allahabad, by sitting in Noida. So new entrepreneurs are working on the technology part. So technology is the biggest thing which every company has to adopt. Now coming to my industry, if we talk about the infrastructure, so from the day one we were working on the technology. I'll give an example. Like in our case, if they want to do a visit of the properties, suppose let's take it until they want to buy a property. So what we do, we work on the original videos of the properties, and just sitting at a home they can see the videos. And the recent we are taking an advantage of this. People are saying that I'll not go for a site visit, I'll see the property on that video I'll see. And they have started giving money online, I mean without visiting actually at the site. So they are booking properties. And second, infrastructure, what Ashish has said, is the backbone of all industries. And Atmanirbhar is totally dependent upon infrastructure. And any industry, if we talk about whether healthcare, agriculture, any industry is based on infrastructure. I think we are talking to each other and we are sitting on some real estate only. So this is the biggest thing. So this is all about and second, one more thing which is very important. If we So our inquiries for franchisee has been increased. Now people want to become more entrepreneurs. If I had an inquiry of 200 franchisee per month, now it has been increased to 800. So this data and this figure shows that they want to become an entrepreneurs, and only entrepreneurs can help a country in surviving and solving a problem.
Okay. Okay. Rightly said, Vivekji. And the last, I would like to talk about, I'll ask the same question to Dr. Sumit as well, because in the aviation is a different field altogether. So what is your view on that? We are actually running short of time, so we'll like to, get the answer in 2-3 lines. So Dr. Sumit.
Sure. Okay. As Ashish was saying about Atmanirbhar, I really feel proud about our Prime Minister. Whatever our Prime Minister says, the other country also follow that. Like yesterday only, I was watching news that Kim Jong, the Korean president, was saying that we have to become independent financially. So even they are looking for Atmanirbhar, the Korea. So when it comes to aviation, we were the fastest growing aviation industry in the world, and we were in the ninth number as the largest aviation industry, and we were expected to be the world's number one by 2023. And we are strongly feeling that we will remain the same strategy because the entire world situation is bad. The entire world, most of the companies are shut down, like Virgin Australia, that got shut down. So now even the industry, Indian aviation industry is in better state because even Indian airline companies, Indigo, try to bid to buy out their entire company, Virgin Australia. So we are in a really very good situation in that way. Definitely, it will take another 1 to 2 years more to come up in a good pace. But expected, yes, by 2023, if we are gonna develop our airport infrastructures, we will be in a very better state. And nowadays, like rural areas, we are developing more for airports. More airports like Agra, and in central India we have Jagdalpur, Ambikapur, Bilaspur, Satna. All these airports are coming up. Works are going on. Infrastructure work are going on. But yes, somewhere we see the opportunity because recently the Adanis had taken over some airports, and now they had denied to take over for another 1 year more time because everyone is in cash crunch. So other people will get opportunity. Other new entrepreneurs will get into this industry to bid for the new airports now. So it's a good opportunity. Even Swiss International Limited company who had bid for the Jewar Airport, which is going to be the India's biggest airport, they are
Correct.
moving out for this bid. So I think some Indian company will bid, and our economy will become more stronger. The money
So I
will
think this bid is over, I guess. The
the bid
Jewar
is
Airport
over.
is
Yes,
already.
but they are not ready to accept this bid now. because of the financial
Okay.
crisis everywhere. They want to
Uh-huh.
move out. So
Okay.
we are taking it as an opportunity now. Now Indian companies are taking up this bid. So
Okay. Okay.
even
So it is
Adani
going to
said,
be a retender, right?
yes, it will be for next 1 year. Everything had postponed, and Indian companies are invited to bid for this. So I think it will be proud for us if the Indian company will have the logo outside the India's biggest airport.
After seeing your analysis that there is no problem in the country, because aviation,
I really
it's been back
would
of my
get
mind, it was looking like it's a very sector which is badly affected. But
no,
after listening to your voice, I feel that this sector is giving a lot of opportunities.
no, no. Basically, we
Like,
used to do yearly normally 30 to 35 air ambulance and charter flights. But in this COVID situation, in past 2 months, we did more than 60 air charter service. So I think the
okay,
demands have increased drastically, and we are trying to get more aircraft from overseas country and trying to register in India. So the
very
demands
good.
are high. It's quite good.
So I think one should look into these sectors also as aviation as a business.
I
Maybe
think
because there
yes,
are having variety of opportunities.
opportunity. Yeah, even because if you see the media news for for a normal lemon, they will show it like a watermelon. You know, so I think we have to see directly with the industry people, and we have to take a feedback from the industry people to get the exact outlook of the industry.
Correct, correct, correct. So now next, I will move to the next question because we have few questions to answer. So I'll ask you the another questions to Gaurav sir. As Sumit ji has already talked about the demands in the country. So as these demands are coming up in this in India. So what businesses will be catering to these demands, and which industry you feel that small venture to the big venture should be in limelight, or maybe they are the rising sectors, because today's topic is rising industries. So, what is your view on that, sir? Cater these demands where we should focus more.
See, I think I will go by the same priority as I have always been saying. First is the basic needs. If you look at the basic needs, roti, kapda, or makan. So I think the first is the agriculture sector. Agriculture coupled with agri extension services is going to be the key. At least in this time till next 1 year, agri is going to be the key, followed by your infrastructure. Infrastructure is a large mover, like we just heard Ashish talking. It's a large mover. A lot of investment can go into infrastructure, and that investment actually fuels further demand, because when people have money in their pockets, the demand rises. And across the industry, we see across sectors, the demand starts rising. So these are two priority areas. Now, there is a cross-cutting area across two cross-cutting areas, and they're interrelated. And that's where I work also, is basically skill development entrepreneurship. So we've been talking about reverse migration. We've also been talking about a churn in the various sectors. So when one sector turns to another sector, there is a reskilling, alternate skilling, there is entrepreneurship needs. So all these are actually cross-cutting. Whether the demand is in sector A and people will have to move to sector B, there is skill development required, there's a reskilling required, and that's where the short-term skilling is going to become very important. People are not looking at long-term skilling. Long-term skilling will still continue for the freshers who want to come into the workforce. So your ITIs and polytechnics would be required to cater to those needs. But short-term training is a need of the day. Suppose I'm working in a restaurant and I've lost my job now because restaurants are not functioning, and it looks like some time away before people will start going back to restaurants and enjoying their dinner outside. But those same people can actually be turned into rendering various services. In fact, two of the largest employers have been showing interest and they've been talking to us. Quest Corp, as we know, is one of the largest employers in India. They've been wanting a lot of people to work on the service industry. Similarly, Urban Company. Urban Company is a constant partner, and they keep coming back to NSDC also saying, we need more and more people. They have already developed their COVID safe modules. All their people are now trained. So before they move into your houses, they actually are doing self-sanitization before these things come in. These things are the ones which I feel will fuel the growth in the next phase. But I would like to add one more thing, and taking cue from Dr. Sumit, aviation sector. In fact, there is a huge requirement in the aviation sector. And very recently, Ministry of Civil Aviation Secretary, Mr. Kharola, and our ex-secretary, Mr. Dr. K.P. Krishnan, who just retired from Ministry of Skill. He's become the advisor skill development to Ministry of Civil Aviation. And he, along with some of us, have started something called the Aviation Skill Task Force. And we are looking at how we can train people across the spectrum, whether it's MRO or it's airline or it's airport job roles. And last week we had a meeting where we are looking at 14 new job roles to be developed on the drone technology.
Yes.
Drones, as we know, are lightweight drones, medium weight drones, and heavy drones. Now we are looking at the spectrum of this, and DGCA is going to regulate, and they've been giving permissions now very recently for drone operation and everything. So DGCA is going to control that, and that's why we are trying to drive it along with the Ministry of Civil Aviation, and our Aviation Sector Skill Council, which is based out of Bangalore. So this is how we are actually trying to revive the whole sector, and aviation will see a lot of growth. In fact, while we were talking, I just got an email from SpiceJet saying you can actually charter a plane as per your needs. From a 6-seater to a 140-seater plane, you can just charter as per your needs. And in the COVID times where people are wanting to be more careful, there could be a requirement for chartering. And he just said that the demand for charter aircraft has grown, especially for air ambulance and other things. And this is the need of the day.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So aviation is a prime focus that you talked about. So Vikasji, I mean, what is your view on that? The same question that I'm throwing to you.
Specific to aviation sector?
No, I mean because the various demands are coming from different industries.
Mm-hmm.
Since we are talking of rising industries,
Mm-hmm.
post COVID or probably the current situation after passed out. So where you feel that the small ventures and the big entrepreneurs should focus more on?
Yeah, Gaurav sir, as Gaurav sir said, roti, kapda, and makan, and the fourth one will be coming the health only. Health sector is the fourth one which will be growing much. Already this was a primary thing, but now the people will be more concerned about their health. The situation has made us very conscious about our health and all. So connecting with the agriculture sector, like homeopathic, like many other, even an agriculture produce could be used for the products in developing health products. So healthcare, the fourth industry.
So health can be another option,
Yeah.
and maybe the related industry.
Healthcare and connected, the healthcare system is a very robust. Even to develop a 100-bedded hospital, it requires more than a 25 crore or more than that. So it's not like it's connecting all the industries. Infrastructure, you say, the manpower it require, and the providing job. It's a very robust industry, basically, we can say.
Okay. So, Ashishji, I mean, what you feel that, because since you are mentoring many, so which are the sectors or probably the industries looking at?
Yeah, I think Gaurav sir has said a very keyword today, roti, kapda, and makan. And I am also a big believer that it is always the core sectors that grow after any small or big correction. So the core sectors like infrastructure, agriculture, and manufacturing, I think they are set to grow. And adding it to, because he has said healthcare, I would also like to add automation and deep tech. However, it will not be a big, absorber of manpower in our country, but it will definitely earn us some good points in international business community, and as we have been talking, bringing a lot of money to India. So,
Ashishji, I mean, if I ask you a question, that if somebody has to choose between a manufacturing and the service industry, where the entrepreneur can think of? I'm not saying that manufacturing is bad or service is good, but yes, I mean, where you feel that entrepreneurs should look at it to start their journey?
Yeah, see, entrepreneurship, how a person chooses an entrepreneurship is also dependent upon his skill sets, his strengths. So if somebody wants to start an manufacturing business, he definitely needs some capital, and services are already inbuilt into it. And if somebody is less on capital but wants to start his business by completely using his skills, and I think service sector is best for him. Definitely, when we will grow on an entrepreneurship curve in India, we will see more and more service sector coming up, and definitely on manufacturing will be there too.
Okay, so service is getting more, positivity as per you.
Yeah, I think so. Because we need to leverage our own strengths, and we have been seeing a lot of companies being built in services sector like TCS, Infosys, and I think we can leverage it more.
Yeah, because why I ask you this question is because as Vikasji has already spoke about the cash flows, discipline, and the small entrepreneurs should look at it because he has a very small money or probably he's taking loan also for that starting a business. So he has to first make a path. Maybe he will start from a forward integration, then look at it the backward integration as a manufacturing.
Yeah, correctly said.
So service industry is as per your business.
Yeah.
Gautamji, I mean, in the agriculture sector, what you feel for the small ventures? So you need to unmute your voice. Yeah.
Yes, I agree that agriculture sector is going to be the most important because everyone has felt that once the COVID times lockdown was there, everyone was rushing for the food. So that is a key important. But one thing is, one industry is very important in all the segment, whether it is agriculture or infrastructure or aviation, whatsoever you take, IT application is going to be there in each and every industry. That intervention of IT applications is going to increase, whether it is agriculture, especially in agriculture, FMCG, e-commerce, or whatever you can talk. So IT industry also going to increase as having its implication in all the industry, whether in infrastructure or whatsoever. So I think with the IT is also going to play the role. Agriculture, I want to add one thing. There's a cash crunch. Everyone is talking about the cash flow and cash crunch. So agriculture is the most important industry, or the SMEs or the startups can come into this sector because there is a cash flow problem is not much there compared to other industry because it is food production. So from farmer, from producer to consumption, it is going to be happen on the regular basis, on hourly basis. So cash flow remains much better compared to other industry in this segment because money moves from consumer pockets. So every day you are purchasing something, you are giving to a retailer or wholesaler or e-commerce company. They are buying back from the suppliers or supply chain people, and supply chain are buying from the farmers or the storage owners. So cash flow problem not much there compared to other industry in agri sector. So startups or SMEs can enter into this to to have a good command over the cash flow. That is my suggestion.
Okay, so I mean, in agriculture, you feel that this is a essential commodities, and every day they have to use for their, for crop production or probably for their own survival. They need to have more, So all in all, what I can see is the skilling that we have, listened from Gaurav sir, that skilling and upskilling, that one-day training kind of. So this one-day training, does it helps you to, enter into agriculture or probably Gaurav sir, I mean, what do you feel that how people can get these trainings done within their own organization, or probably or new entrepreneurs can get the more and more information about this upskilling, because I think it comes under upskilling, right?
See, I think it is a short-term skilling as it is normally an upskilling basis on your basic information and basic education or basic experience. So under the short-term training, normally the full courses are about 200 to 250 hours, which is about 2 months to 3 months kind of courses. But then there are something called recognition of prior learning. If I have been a farmer and I know how to grow my crops, but there are certain elements which might be missing, which could be the right use of fertilizers, right use of pesticides. So those right use and right quantity is something which I need to learn. Now, for this, the government and, in the basic parlance of skill development, we call it recognition of prior learning with a bridge course. And the bridge course is normally 10 hours to 80 hours, which means we can very well do this in 2 days to a 10-day kind of a period, where this upskilling, along with the basic key inputs which might be missing in that, we can go through that and sit for assessment and get certified. It helps the agriculture sector also in a major way, because the farmers have been doing certain things, they know the techniques. It's only about learning the latest techniques or the right quantities and right proportions. So this does not take too much time in agriculture. And in fact, it is the same thing in every other sector. The recognition of prior learning is there. Even if we go for, say, a construction worker, he may be an expert in doing his masonry or carpentry or whatever he is doing. There might be a certain element which is missing, which could be health and safety. Now, that health and safety can be taught in 3 days' time, and he can actually get certified under the construction sector to be a mason or carpenter or whatever work he's already been doing. So these kind of things actually bridge the gap of the person.
So it is basically, first of all, identifying the gaps and then, bridging those gaps. Rightly said, sir. So I think we have talked about skilling, agriculture. So now let's come on that Makan housing. So, Mr. Vivek, I would like to throw the same question in this housing industry. Are you able to, maintain those upskilling thing for your franchisees or probably for your employees in your own organization? A quick answer from you, because we have to take another question, and I would request all the participants, whoever having few questions also, they can write, and we'll be taking those questions at the end. So, Mr. Vivek, the same question that I am going to ask you, particularly in the housing or the infrastructure sector that you are currently in.
So 2-3 lines I'll answer quickly.
Yeah.
I already told our inquiries for real estate has been jumped like anything, and inquiry for our franchisee has been increased like anything, because the people are inquiring about the real estate. The property prices are going to increase because of the shortage of the labor, so that is the reason. And because the stock market and has come down and FD rates has come down, so people are looking more investment in real estate. And coming to franchisee, people are asking whether I should start my own or should I take a franchisee. So we give an answer. It is a ready-made business model. You don't need to start from a scratch anything. So whether you are going into an agriculture, healthcare, or real estate, so I think franchisee is a good option to start anything, because you get a whole business model get ready from any company if it is backed by technology.
Correct. So the housing thing also, you are very positive about the franchising model can help the industry.
Yes.
Sumit ji, I'm taking this question to you also for that aviation sector. What is your view on that?
Okay. As Gaurav sir said, like, yeah, basically, I also heard about the skilling committee which is formed under the Ministry of Civil Aviation. I was in touch with Mr. Ambar Dubey for the same thing, as I'm heading the Bureau of Indian Standard for trainings of drones in India. So we are feeling one thing, that there's a gap between the industry people and the training segments. Like, industry are not aware so far that there are a skilling team working for manpower, and we are training them, so that the day we both will work together, I think most of the problem will get solved. Because industry is having a manpower crunch right now, and we want to provide a manpower to the industry, but they're not aware about the thing. I think there will be a day when they will come to know about the training qualities which our NSDC is providing, and sector skills are providing. I think this gap will be filled, and there is huge job opportunity will be coming in the market then. And if we go ahead with seeing the problems in the aviation industry which we will be facing, which will be a higher tax which we are paying for tickets and all the fuel, air type fuels. Multiple window clearance we required in India to get anything clear in India. And same time, we don't have MROs. Like, we are planning to set up MROs in India. So far, we don't have MROs in India. We are definitely taking the aircraft outside of the country. So definitely, there's a problem which we are facing in aviation industry right now. And definitely, training sites. We don't have good training institutes in India. We are in short of that. And if I take off, like, post-COVID, there is huge demand for cyber security also. As the Gautam sir was saying, IT industry is going to boom. So definitely, as the industry is booming, there will a lot of cyber crime will be happening because most of the companies nowadays they are in online platforms. The demand for cyber security, cyber forensic will increase like anything, and this is a place where opportunities lies. Anyone, because we closely work with the ADGP of Karnataka Police Department. He was expert in forensic department. He had taken a pre-retirement VRS and has set up his own company of forensic, because he also says that the forensic is like a different world and it's a parallel world of real world. You can see over there, huge opportunities are there, and still people are not aware about that. So it's very good that if people will start taking opportunity from these cyber departments also, and if they start up something like for IT security, so they can make a really good money, and future will be really bright for these sectors.
Rightly said, Sumitji. I would again request all the panelists and all the attendees, if they want to ask any questions, they can raise their hands so that we'll take all the questions at the end. They can drop me SMS also, maybe on the registered numbers, as well as they can put their questions to the panelists. We'll take those questions at the end. So I'm going to on the last question of this today's webinar. The question would be after all these discussions of these industries, COVID, and emerging industries, as the aviation is also one of the sectors where we can look at. Which industry will clearly be winner in the future? So it's a very important question, and a lot of people have asked these questions on different platforms. So where you feel, I'll go one by one to all that panelists. Which industry will clearly be the winner in the future? Gaurav sir, I'll start from you.
Yeah, I think besides what I already said in the previous one, the basic needs of roti, kapda, and makan, I think we'll be having a change of trend and be seeing a lot of knowledge-based products and knowledge-based companies moving forward. With knowledge-based, I mean people who could actually give out knowledge in a remote fashion, and the industry which is basically going to capture all this is primarily going to come and feed into various other sectors, including media and entertainment, including agriculture. So the knowledge-based products and the dissemination of the knowledge-based products is going to be the key besides the basic sectors.
Okay, so you mean to say that knowledge-based business along with the existing thing can be a good option for new entrepreneurs? Thank you,
Yes.
sir. Thanks for your view. Ashish ji, as you are the expert in franchise, and so what is your clearly, the last question that I'm talking about, which industry will be clearly a winner?
Yeah, I think core sectors like infrastructure, agriculture will be the winners in medium to long term.
Okay. How about Vikas ji, what is your view on that?
Very difficult to say any industry as such, but changing the COVID situation, people are coming to the basics. So all the hype, all the show shavaji and all is getting down. So things will come to the basics, whatever the basics we had. But the use of technology is increasing very fast. Like we are doing the webinar, we are like sitting at our comfort. So these things will be the like nobody ever heard about the this Zoom thing. We used to use Skype. So the Indian brands have to come in these sectors as well. So like giving you the example, recently I was reading the Zoho CEO is working from his village home. The whole company, Zoho CEO is working from the remote village in Karnataka, I think near Bangalore. So the things are scattering. The what centralization has happened in the past, like everybody was used to move to Mumbai, Delhi. So things will be decentralized. So we have to be ready with the products which can be provided to anybody, anywhere, in any part of the country. So, so first of all, this telecom is the biggest earner of this. So one example, we have a Jio as well. So in the whole past 2-3 months, the Jio is the company has able to secure the 1 lakh crores of investment.
Even more than that, when they have
Telecom,
multiple
yeah, more than
investments.
that, yeah. Telecom is the number one. So there is a competition. Maybe in a coming future there could be a monopoly, but other two companies are struggling.
No, even they also got some offered. I mean, Google has
Yeah,
asked.
Google has approached to the Voda and Idea.
Yeah. So I mean, you have a different opinion, but I feel that this is also a good opportunity for young entrepreneurs, and the small SMEs can talk about these telecom, because telecom is also associated with other sectors.
Right.
So you can look into these opportunities.
Yeah, decentralization is for sure. See, with the help of technology, everybody can work from anywhere. This has to happen. So, infrastructure part, we were planning to move some bigger office or look for the bigger property in the commercial building. Now our approach has changed. Now what we are planning, we would have only 5 to 10 team in a one place, and the whole team will be scattered across the India. Even when there was a hurdle of why should hire somebody from remote area, they will have a problem of commuting fare, and they are
Correct.
with the help of these work from home concept, just we are developing infrastructure secured one, so that client database and all remain secured, and we will not have a requirement for the office more than 900 square feet or 1000 square feet.
So you mean telecom is one sector? So
yeah.
Okay. So, Gautamji, I mean, what is your view? Which industry is going to be the winner post-COVID?
See, overall, if you say if the basic need is the agriculture, so agriculture is going to play the key for the next segment or growth. But I agree with the Mr. Vikasji that IT industry is going to play the role in each and every segment. So every segment of the industry has their own importance. Infrastructure has its own importance, agriculture, aviation, every industry has its own importance. But IT is going to play the common role in all the industries. So what I food is basic requirement, but even this need the IT application. So I hope that IT is going to play much more role than any other sector, because it has application or implication in all the segment. Whatever you name, whether it's medical, pharma, agriculture, aviation, infrastructure, what you take is going to play a big role in the coming industry. If there is no scope in any particular segment, there is going to be scope in the days to come. Whether it is service.
So you mean to say the IT-enabled services to the different sectors? So
yes.
IT-enabled services, I think we
different
can talk.
Sectors.
Okay. Thank you, Gautamji.
Yes.
Vivek, I would like you. I mean, can you give me any industry which is the clear-cut winner you see in the future?
So Jiten, I think beautifully answered by everyone, and as per my name, Vivek is the last digit. So Jiten always asks me this question in last.
We have another panelist.
Most of the time. So I always feel like I'm a backbencher of a class.
Nothing like that.
Nothing like that. So I think a need-based industry will survive. Rightly said, luxury will not survive. Need-based survive. And it is
Can you name any industries?
Yeah, I'll name, adding to Gaurav sir. Now
our panelists want to know, I mean, exactly, because they are looking forward, and
so I'll after discussing with all of you now new terminology which has come, adding to Gaurav sir, and then I'll define it. Now it is like roti, kapda, makan, and udan. So it is something like that. So roti, it is this agriculture, which is a need based. So you need an agriculture to have to consume. You have to consume a product, and then kapda is a clothing industry, and then again makan real estate, because everything is backed by real estate. And the transportation, aviation model could be anyone. Because transportation is a part of everything. If you need to fly, you have to fly. You need to reach anywhere within shortest time. Product has to be transported through aviation, courier services. So drone technology model could be different, but industry will be aviation. So all these four industries: real estate, agriculture, aviation, and clothing. But summing up, and rightly said by Gautam sir, it has to be backed by technology. Then only scalability is there.
So IT-enabled services can become a core area where
Yes.
people can start their business.
Yes.
Right, Vivekji. Dr. Sumit, finally, I mean, what is your view? Which industry you feel?
I definitely feel IT enabled industry is gonna boom, but same time medical, like pharmacies and all, they are in boom right now. You can see the demand, and this will grow in future also because now I don't know when the COVID situation will get cured, but definitely in future the budget from the ministry also will be huge for especially for medicals. So in future, the demand for medical and equipment for medicals will be very high all over the world, not only for India, all over the world. The demand will be very high for medical equipment and backed by IT. Definitely, everything nowadays is IT. So definitely in future, if you want to go to hospital, also you might have to take online appointments. Then only you can reach the hospital also. So that's gonna be a technology-enabled health services. So future, I think medical and IT will have a huge demand.
If I'll sum up all that view by all the panelists, one is the telecom sector, which is going to grow, and the knowledge-based businesses. Knowledge-based businesses can be what we are doing here is it's a summits, and the awareness programs can also be one of them. Agriculture and then infrastructure. Infrastructure is again roti, kapra, and makan, built by infrastructure, and IT-enabled services, and the medical that you have added. So how about this aviation? Since you come from an aviation thing and you have talked about this MRO, can you throw a light on it quickly if you can? I mean, talk about this MRO.
Maintenance and repair overhaul the thing like for aviation we need definitely repairs and maintenance of the aircraft. Right now we are taking the aircraft to overseas countries for the maintenance purposes. So in recent ministry budget we already had got approval to start the MRO in India. Government of India is supporting the MRO setup also in India, but it will take some time. So we expect like we can't say that we the entire aviation industry contribute around 1 to 2% of GDP. Not huge. We can't compare with agriculture or any other industry. But yeah,
Correct, correct.
aviation industry is still treated as a luxury item, not the item for need. So it will take some time to take it out from the mind of the common public and make them realize this is not a like luxury item. This is going to be a basic needs. So future is good of aviation, but yes, not a major player for GDP. Definitely, it will take another 2 to 3 years time for us to contribute a bigger percentage in GDP.
Correct. So thank you, Somiji. Thanks all that panelists for giving their views on different aspects in the rising industries. So now we will take at the end of this session few questions, and there are some attendees who want to ask directly. So I'm allowing them to talk. There is a person called Mr. Ratish. Ratish, are you there? You would like to ask any question? Ratish.
Yeah, Jinendra.
Yeah, Ratish, can you, what question that you have?
No, I want to know what about the opportunity to the agriculture sector in the coming past COVID. That I want to know more.
You would like to ask to any, panelist, any specific panelist, or I'll throw this question to all?
No, sir, Gaurav sir is better for the discovery. He's
Gaurav sir, you can rephrase the question again. Gaurav sir is there.
no.
Ratish, can you rephrase the questions again?
Yeah, what about the agriculture sector, especially our Kerala? No, I am from Kerala. Because a good opportunity for the starting new technology for the agriculture sector. What's the opportunity for the SME, the support from the government side and the hydroponics system, the polyphonics system, the new technology?
Gaurav sir.
So as I understood, he's specifically asking about Kerala and what could be the demand job roles or demand for jobs in Kerala, and looking at the agri sector. So what I feel is, one industry which is very much there in Kerala on the agri side is rubber plantation. And rubber is going to be in demand. As we see that Tata Motors has already started their supply of commercial vehicles. So the demand for tires is again going to rise. So the rubber industry is one, and especially the plantation side, because it's linked to agriculture, could be one which could be looked at from Kerala. Also, Kerala is a very unique model because a lot of people who are coming back from the Gulf are coming back to Kerala. And the Ministry of Civil Aviation, along with the Ministry of Skills and Ministry of External Affairs, all three of us had joined hands and actually created something called a skill card. So everybody who's landing from abroad under the Swadesh scheme, we are trying to capture their skill sets, and a lot of these returnees are to Kerala. And these skill sets are then being compiled or being put up on a portal where the local industry or the industry within India could look at that skill sets and absorb them. So I think Kerala, these two things would be of prime importance, and we can look at this.
Correct. That's true. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, any other participant want to ask any question? We have received few questions through email also. I would like to ask this question to Ashish ji. As in the last event that we have this boutique franchisee, many people have come out with the questions like, what is exactly this boutique franchisee? Can you elaborate the whole concept of it and where they can get benefited?
Yeah. See, Bouquet Franchisee is an option to set up a profitable, sustainable business.
Okay.
If you are looking to build a business that is profitable for you, you have some options. You can start from scratch. Then you have some franchisee options. Franchisee business, as told by Vivek, is already a ready-made business model where you get the success blueprint already done. Business has evolved over the last 5-6 years at least, and customers are liking it. Most of the things have been sorted out in that business. So the chances of getting response, getting to profitability in a franchisee business is much higher. So we came up with boutique or bouquet franchisee offer, where we are offering correlated businesses like one business where you can make profitability, and the second business you can do cross selling from the same data, and the same businesses that can be run simultaneously for the same customers. So that increase the efficiency of your business many times over, and chances of profitability many times over with lesser expenses.
Very good explain, Ashish ji. I feel that because as I can sum up this, you mean to say the available resources are more utilized in this booking franchise.
Yes, definitely. And in Bouquet Franchisee, the available resources like many expenses like real estate, like other infrastructure is totally minimized. With only a single office, you can run two businesses, which we are offering right now. So that efficiency is increased and efficiency of scale is there.
It's a wonderful model.
Yes.
There is one more participant want to ask the questions. I am allowing them to talk. Dr. Rajendra Kumar, would you like to ask any question?
Yeah. Hello. Good afternoon.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir.
Yeah. Just I want to know which type of skill in agriculture sector will be most demanding or more demanding.
So you would like to ask this question to a specific panelist, or I'll leave it to all the panelists?
Anyone can respond.
So all panelists are open for that answer.
Because I think agriculture sector is not depend on the one skill, and all of you having different skills, so all of you can respond in that.
I would request panelists to come forward.
Yes, I think my voice is audible.
Yeah. Please, go ahead.
I think he has written some, he has given some message also. The farmers has to be trained for the marketing also. And he's said very much rightly, Dr. Rajendra Prasad, that he has said very much right there, number of skills is required in the whole segment from plow to platter. Number of skills are there. So the most important skill is how to sell your product. And you can sell your product as per the market need. So you have to understand the market need and prepare your final product according to that only. It needs the packaging, it needs the deliveries, logistics, everything. Agriculture production is very much common, but after production, these things are highly required and highly skill required to cater these things up to the platter level.
Anybody wants to add on to Gautam says?
Yeah, I think I would like to just briefly add. There are a lot of skill sets in agriculture which a person can acquire, whether it's intensification of a particular crop or looking at growing vegetables in a greenhouse environment or looking at organic farming. These things typically have a premium which comes over and above the normal agriculture produce. So I think these are some of the courses which people can look at.
So Dr. Rajendra, have you got your answer?
Just a very small question I want to know. In India, all of you know that more than 65% are you can say, farmers are having less than 2-acre land. In that condition, how this type of skill may help them? Hello.
Yeah. So even in a smaller land holding, you could look at even if intensification may not be feasible in a smaller land holding, but building a greenhouse or doing organic farming or doing some kind of plantation, whether it's banana plantation or rubber plantation or other things which might be feasible, could be looked at. There are also some other techniques of agriculture where people are actually planting crops and also raising fish, in the same field, is also something which is, a lot of people across the country are experimenting with. So I think there are various things. If you explore further, there'll be trainings which will be available.
I think whatever the skill you are saying are can say finding benefit with the larger farmers.
Just 1 second, Dr. Rajendra. Ashish, can you go on mute?
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, thank you. Now can you repeat your question?
Yeah, I think what you are advising, that is more beneficial for the big farmers, whoever having more land, more than 2 hectares, like. But in case of the medium and small farmers, and particularly in that segment, 37% farmers are having, you can say, no land. And how this skill can help them? How they can build a poly house, greenhouse? How they can follow the organic farming?
So if you are talking particularly about landless farmers, see these techniques.
I am talking about the masses.
Yes, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So in case of a very small farm holding or no farm holding, but still a person is in the agriculture sector and is a farmer, that means he is working on somebody else's farm. And the poly houses, organic farming and other things are coming into a big way into those farms also. Even intensification, then actually you open up the whole gamut. So I think the job roles are the same, whether you work for somebody else or you work on that. In fact, just to give you an example, we just sent a batch of 14 people, this was about a year back, to Italy for rice farming. And that rice farming was being done in a polyhouse kind of an environment. So they took about 14 people from India to do it, and that was like an internship program for them. They were all from agriculture universities, and they went to Italy, they did that 1-year project, and they've come back to India. So a lot of opportunities are available, and these people could probably take up long-term employment also into agriculture, abroad. The possibilities are opening up. I think Mr. Gautam, SK Gautam can also add in this.
Yes, it is possible. Technology intensification is possible. And whatever he is very much, you are very much right that with the landless farmers, or they need to be skilled because they are going to work on the other fields. So they need to be skilled in a proper way for the different kind of, whether they are going to work in a poly house or hydroponics or aeroponics. Lot many requirements are there, so they need to be trained. One more technology upcoming is the hydroponics, aeroponics. These are also coming up in India. Major corporate houses are involved and they are coming up to go in this segment of the hydroponics, aeroponics. like ITC is doing aeroponics, Mahindra is doing aeroponics for sweet potato production. Other companies are also in not these are large companies, but mid segment and small segment companies are also, even micro segment companies are also coming into aeroponics system for seed production. They are having hardly 1 acre land. They have put up the greenhouse and they are doing things. Yes, a lot of so they need the trained manpower to work inside the aeroponics or hydroponic systems. So landless farmers can also be trained in those segments. And Gaurav Saab has told very much rightly that they need to be trained, like they have given the training to the farmers for the rice production in polyhouses. Yes, it can happen.
Thank you, Gautam sir. Dr. Rajendra, I hope you must have got your answers from our panelists.
I got my answer, but I can add something.
Yes.
Yeah, you quickly can add something. There is no problem.
Dr. Gautam sir, whatever he is saying, agreed with him, but this is not going to provide benefit to the masses. And hydroponic and aeroponic is not, I think, for the India, right? And that is all about the corporate farming. But in my opinion, farmers, particularly in North Indian conditions, or whoever having no land or less land, they need to be skilled in their marketing skill as well as their post-harvest skill, packaging skill. They can be groomed as a consolidator. They can send their product in the market if they are not having the. And if farmers are well aware about the marketing and they will have access to the market, in that condition they can more profit, because in the Indian condition, farmers whoever producing, they are not selling in the market, they are not having access to the consumers. They go to the market and hand over their product to the customer agent or whoever there. They cannot sell their product in the market. So farmers in Indian condition, they have to be groomed about their marketing skill as well as their post-harvest skill, whatever the crop they are growing. This is not matter, because they are farmers. And whatever Indian, you can say government policies or consultant policies or whatever they are saying, they all are talking about the corporate farming, and they are very much intent to provide the benefit and provide the resources to the corporate big firms like ITC that Dr. Gautam has given the example. Gautam Adani likes to add. This is my concern about that.
Rajendra ji, may I add something?
Yeah.
Sir, what I'm saying, like all the panelists saying, even a farmer who don't have any land can become the good entrepreneur in doing the farming as well. So,
right.
Like take an example, farmer can have a contractual land. They can get into a lease with anybody other's lands if they have a business skill. There is a vertical farming concept is also there. Even a small land, vertical farming is possible.
Right, that type of skill they require. My concern is about the skill.
Yeah, Dr. Rajendra, I would like to include that if you are looking for skilling, if you don't have a land also, right now which is in high demand, that is drone service in agriculture sector, because of the locust problem and all. It will be huge demand in future also. If you want to get skill, you can get skill in this thing, because if you don't have a land also, you can utilize this service for the farmers. Use drones for pesticide spraying and all. It will save time for the farmers, and in future it will have huge demand. You can make a really good money out of it,
Sir, you are rightly saying that. I am saying they know about the market, but marketing means knowing about the end user that needs. Accordingly, they produce and they make available at the farmers. If there is a demand of the market for particular food, or the demand of the any concern is like so, then they can produce and do accordingly. So until they will not aware about that, they cannot do anything. They cannot. They can only survive, and they do their sustenance farming only, and they migrate to another places for their livelihood. In India, is I think big concern is farmers are not aware about the marketing and selling skill. They go through the customer agent or any other tools they adopt for the selling their products.
So I think
I
Dr.
think all of you aware
Rajendra
the
point
Indian
out-
market condition. All of you aware about the Indian market condition. How many farmers are directly selling to the consumers in the market?
I think Jiten sir will tell you more about this, because right now we are getting a platform for the farmers to directly sell their product to the market. Yes, it will take some time, but definitely in future you can see that formula also in market.
I think Dr. Rajendra has, mentioned a very important point here. There is a very, gap of, these farmers' information to the, to the actual
Right.
things which are happening. So I think
Right.
there are, a lot of ventures which are coming up, and they are, trying to, filling these gaps. As Gaurav sir has already spoken about that, filling the gaps through upskilling and all. Initiatives are there, but I think maybe on the ground it will take some time. People like you can, make these things possible, or more and more informations can be passed out, and we are trying to give that feedback to the authorities, or probably the people who, or the new entrepreneurs which can come into that business, where the session is all about that. More and more entrepreneurship come, and maybe they can make people aware, give some skill,
Right.
upskill and other things. And Dr.
Right.
Rajendra, if you have any any other question also, you can drop an email to us. We will ask our panelists, or we will request our panelists to give your answer. But very good question. Thank you, Dr. Rajendra. We'll be looking forward to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So at the end, there is one last question, and after that we'll be summing up. There is a question which is there: how to start and connect for franchise business. So I think I will leave this question to Mr. Ashish, and then we'll end this session for today. Ashish ji.
Yeah, thanks, Suhas. I think our entrepreneurship experts are there in the attendees too, and you must have got mail from our side to join this event. And just write a mail citing your phone number and your interest. And I think our entrepreneurship experts who have got experience of dealing with more than 100 plus entrepreneurs and building franchisees for them, they will get in touch with you.
Right, Ashish ji. So I would like to, thanks everybody, Gaurav ji, Vikas ji, Ashish ji, and Ashish ji, you itself, and Vivek also. So let's, looking forward for you from the next webinar as well. So we'll be having another webinar on next Saturday. So looking forward for you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for the all panelists to join today's event.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.